Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. So a little bit ago, I did a video on how to read books effectively. You can check out the video here. And in that video, I talked about this idea of how you should read books, how you should take some information from them and ignore some information. And I read a lot of books. I got a lot of requests on that video to make sort of a top 10 list of my favorite books. I'm probably going to do a few of these on different topics, but this is my overall top 10. I thought I'd do a video and give you all my overall top 10 books. I had a hard time coming up with this because I had so many of them on there, but I think this would have to be my top 10, at least right now. I read a lot of books every year, so you can check out this post here where I overview all the books I read for 2015, and it also links back to the books I read for 2014. I read over 57 books in 2015. So I do read a lot of books. I like to read. I believe that reading is the way to really get ahead in this world, that having knowledge and absorbing that information is critical. I've learned a lot, just grown a lot since I've become a voracious reader. So let's get into my top 10 books here. And these are really in no particular order, although the first book is my #1 book, and that is How to Win Friends and Influence People. So this book is by Dale Carnegie. You can check out the book here. In fact, I'm not going to point. The books will just show up magically. So anyway, this book is a really good book. This book sort of changed my life. This is one of the books that actually got me into reading more, simply because of how much useful information I got from this. Before I read this book, I was of the impression that consequences was how you motivate people, that you basically discipline other people in order to get results. I didn't believe in positive reinforcement. Essentially, I believed in negative reinforcement. And this book totally changed things around for me and made me realize that positive reinforcement is really the only reinforcement that works. It made me realize to not argue with people, that arguing was bad and that nothing good ever comes from it. It also made me realize that in dealing with people, it's just how to deal with people in a much better way, and to understand how people think, how people are always going to justify themselves, that being right is not so important, and that it doesn't matter so much, and that's not the thing that's gonna win you the influence of people, but being genuine and really seeing the other person's viewpoint. There's so many nuggets of wisdom in this book. This is a book that I actually reread, or I listen to the audio version of it at least once a year. I've probably listened to this book at least 15 or 16 times, the audio version. Sometimes I'll listen to it 2 or 3 times in the year. I think last year I probably listened to it like three or 4 times. But this is just such a good book. I highly recommend this book. It's timeless principles that apply to your life. Even today, it'll always apply. And these are just some of the critical skills that you can develop for dealing with people. And this is one of the most important things that you can learn is how to deal with people. We're always dealing with people, and for anyone that has any kind of issues with social skills or interactions with people, this is just a really, really good book. It can change your life when you see things from this perspective. So much good information in there. The next one here is, let me pull this up, The Richest Man in Babylon. So this is a fairly short read, and I like this book. It's told in sort of a story format of a few different stories. It is one of I'd say the quintessential book on personal finance. It's an old book. It's an age-old book. It's a timeless book again, and it lays out sort of a formula for success that if anyone who follows this is going to become rich, essentially, or become wealthy, is going to accumulate wealth, because it's an absolute formula for doing this. Now you have to do it from young enough, obviously, and it takes time, but it's just laid out so well. It talks about this idea of of taking the 10% that you make and saving a certain portion of that, and then taking another 10% and paying the debts that you owe and prioritizing those debts, and then taking another 10% and investing that, and then living off of the 70%. And it also talks about taking the money that you invest and reinvesting that, but it's at a very, very principled, basic level. It doesn't talk about tactics. It's not about markets. It's not about the economy or how to invest. It's really just about the core money management principles. It's really wisdom, right? And you'll find that most of the books that I recommend here are less tactical and they're more wisdom, because having that wisdom, understanding things and how the world operates and how finances operate at this very principled level is going to transcend time. It's very, very important. So I really recommend this book. Everyone should read this book because it gives you so much good information about finances. And then let's get to The War of Art. Gosh, this is one of my favorite books as well. It is a book that I believe it's written by Stephen Pressfield. I believe it's designed for writers, essentially, but I find that is very useful advice for entrepreneurs or anyone who has ever tried to do something and procrastinated, because it really gives you this understanding that you are fighting this force that Stephen calls in this book resistance. And it's a true force. We all fight it. Every time we're trying to do something good, we end up running into resistance, and resistance stops us cold. So it's really, and the book is very artfully written, right? It's a very good book as far as it'll keep you entertained, and it is really, it's like prose, the way that he writes this, but it is such a key comment. He hits on so many points and gives you encouragement. When I read this book first, I was going through a really hard time trying to get just a ton of work done, doing all the Pluralsight courses I did. You can check out, I did like 55 Pluralsight courses, and I did 30, I think it was 36 in 1 year. And a lot of it had to do with this book, because I read this book and then I realized, okay, I just got to get up every day and do it. You'll find a lot of influence from The War of Art in my book, Soft Skills: A Software Developer's Life Manual. If you check out my book, if you read some chapters in there especially about being a professional, you'll see that. And the big distinction, the big takeaway I'd say from The War of Art is this idea that a professional gets up and sits at the desk and does the work, whether they feel like it or not. They can be counted on every day. Whereas an amateur, it waits for inspiration to strike, doesn't just make it happen. Whereas a professional, they go and they get it, and they get it every day. So really good book. I highly recommend it. It will change your outlook on motivation. The E-Myth Revisited. So this book is a business book, and it's obviously one of my favorites because this book changed the way that Simple Programmer works. It really saved Simple Programmer, I would say, because at the time when I was reading this book, it was just me running everything, and I was overwhelmed, and I was tired. I was tired of editing videos, I was tired of editing audio and writing blog posts and producing all this content every week and doing all of the details of the business. And I felt like I had created a job for myself that might have been worse than the jobs I was trying to escape by becoming free and becoming an entrepreneur. I was technically free, but I wasn't free. So I was really thinking about shutting things down and quitting. And in fact, I think I did some videos and wrote some blog posts about this when I was kind of in that mode. But this book, E-Myth Revisited, it gave me hope because it gave me a formula. It made me realize that I was treating my business in an entirely wrong way. That what I needed to do was to develop systems and standard operating procedures and to really systemize a lot of the business and automate it and hand that off to other people to be able to run that. And it gave me the resources to figure out how to do that, why it was important, and understand this. And now Simple Programmer operates in a totally different manner. I don't even have to be here in order for Simple Programmer to make money. I have a team now, and they know what they're supposed to do and get that stuff done. And there's a lot of stress that's taken off of me. I can go and I can take trips and I can travel. I don't have to be here all the time. So E-Myth Revisited, if you're if you're doing any kind of business stuff, I would highly recommend it because you want to start your business that way. So many people do business the wrong way and they build jobs for themselves and it's miserable. And it's a great story. It's a story format book, again, that is really good. As a Man Thinketh. This is a phenomenal book. It's short. Again, a lot of the books, I listen to the audio versions of the books. So if you don't have an Audible account, sign up. I've got a link here where you can sign up. In fact, I think if you just buy any of these books, if you do sign up and you haven't signed up already, buy my book, Soft Skills Software Developers Manual, and sign up, and I believe you'll get a bit of a bonus there when you sign up directly with my book. I'd appreciate it. So anyway, so this book, As a Man Thinketh, what is this about? It's a short book. It's really hard to describe what it's about. It's sort of this very condensed, positive thinking, self-motivational book that really condenses what it takes to succeed and be a winner and the right mindset that you have to be successful in life. It has just got so much good prose, like so many of the sentences in this book are quotable, are things that you could ponder and think about. It really sets the stage. It's such a short read that you can read it multiple times and get a lot of encouragement. It's just one of those just phenomenal books that is packed with so much good information in such a short amount of words. So really recommend this book. It's a book that can definitely change your life. Again, I think really all of these books can change your life, but for me, this book, it really condensed a lot of what I was learning in different areas and different books into a very succinct message that gave me clear direction on what my attitude needed to be, how to think positively, how to succeed and overcome. Really recommend that book. The next one is The Way of the Superior Man. This is a book that I just recently read, and I can't believe I hadn't read this before. I wish someone would have given me this when I was 19. This book applies mostly to guys, but I mean, I think a woman reading this could probably benefit from it, from seeing the psychology, the standpoint. This book is a little bit out there. This is a book that it seems kind of strange that I'm recommending. A lot of people aren't going to like this book. I'm going to warn you up front. I've talked about this book a little bit, but I do feel that this has extremely valuable advice for men on teaching them how to not just be a man, but to be a man in a relationship with a woman and to maintain that status of feeling like a man, and to understand sort of the feminine aspect a little bit in ways that you might not. This is again another potentially life-changing book because there's a lot of things in here that are not obvious, and there's a lot of encouragement in here. It sort of gives you a purpose for kind of dealing with some of the things that you have to deal with in life as a man. And when you have that purpose, it's more of a challenge as opposed to stuff that happens to you. That's the best way I could describe this. The very first chapter of the book is just awesome. It describes this whole idea of trying to wait for things to be finished. And a lot of guys, this was me, this was a story of my life, was trying to get to the end where things are finished. And that's not the way to live life. You have to live life in the moment. You have to be present. You have to be not waiting for your life to begin, not waiting for something to start. So really good book. I recommend it. Again, not for everyone. I think a lot of people are not going to like that book, but if you're at the right stage of life and you can appreciate the message, and like I said, it is a message that a lot of people are not going to like. I talk about, check out my video if you haven't already on sexism and what I'm doing sort of on this channel. And a lot of that is influenced from this book, by the way. So let's go on here to, okay, so this isn't a book, but I have to include this here. Seneca's Moral Letters to Lucius, or not Lucius, it's Lucilius. I don't know why I always say Lucius. Okay, so these are letters that Seneca wrote to Lucilius, and they're actually free. You can find the link to them. Someone has created a book that has collections of them, but they're edited. They're not all the letters. There's a lot of letters here. There's a ton of wisdom in this. I believe Tim Ferriss actually recorded an audio version of this. I don't know if he got all the letters. I hope he did. I'm probably going to get that audio version. I heard some bad reviews about the vocals on it, but I don't know. Anyway, it is powerful wisdom here. That's the best way to describe it. It's crazy to think that in the days of Seneca, right, that way back in that time frame, that same wisdom still applies today. It is amazing how that transcends time. Highly recommend this. If you're interested in Stoicism at all, this is the book to read, or the letters to read. In this case, it's a lot of reading, but it's well worth it. Commit to reading one letter a day, and it's going to benefit you a lot. But this is definitely something that really changed my life, really made me toughen up in a lot of ways, and I think it's powerful. Atlas Shrugged. So this one is probably, I guess this is the only real fiction book that I have on here that would be classified as total fiction. Ayn Rand is such a controversial figure, but a lot of people have opinions on Atlas Shrugged. It's a huge book, like 1,000 pages or something like that. There's a speech in the book that's like, I want to say 50 pages long, just this one speech. A lot of people have opinions on this. They haven't read this book. Read this book. This book, whether you agree with it or not, has the potential to change your life. Again, I said this about a lot of these books because I really do believe that they do have that potential. But what I really like about this book is this book really paints a very exaggerated picture of the dangers of things like socialism and communism and a lot of these ideas that are re-emerging today in society. I don't want to promote political agendas here, but read this book. At least be educated and understand what the realities of the situation are. Now, I don't agree with 100% everything in this book. This book does tend to, Ayn Rand's philosophy is sort of this, I don't want to say it's a greed philosophy, but it's a selfish philosophy, and it really says looking out for you only. To some degree, there's a lot of merit to that, to thinking that way, to having enough respect for yourself. But it's a fascinating story, I think, as well. But it's a really good, just long book, but lots of different messages, lots of layers of things that are happening there that I think everyone should read. Psycho-Cybernetics, or you can read the new Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. I think that a new version of this book may have come out, but essentially any of these, Psycho-Cybernetics, it's a pretty long volume. This was a book written by a plastic surgeon, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, who figured out that when he did operations and he did plastic surgery on some people's faces, what ended up happening was it changed their personality. And some people he would do it and it wouldn't. And so he was trying to figure out what was the cause, and he found this whole idea, this ego, this self-identity, that our own self-image that really controls who we become and who we are and what we're capable of. And this book is all about altering your self-image and using your brain, using the power of your brain to set goals and to be able to, that your brain is an automatic mechanism for achieving those goals. A lot of powerful concepts in here. Sometimes I describe this book, if you're familiar with the book Think and Grow Rich, this is like the analytical version of this. This is like the scientific version of Think and Grow Rich. It's the same type of idea of the positive thinking, of the mindset of achieving things and the power of your mind, but it's more of an analytical approach. But this is a really good book for figuring out what your self-image is, altering that self-image, and being able to step into that. I did a video a long time back called on Fake It Till You Make It. It's probably embarrassing now. But anyway, that video, I talked about this idea of faking it till you make it. And that's a really important concept. And that's what this book is essentially about. It's like how you can alter your self-image, and you will become what you're pretending to be. As you step into that role, you can become that. I use this a lot. I use this a lot when helping people, when I'm doing coaching, is helping them to alter their self-image, to step into a role, to essentially fake it till you make it. This is a book that can really change your life, especially if you have big self-confidence problems and self-image issues. The final one, I had to cut it at the 10 here. I've got a whole list. I've got another card in my Trello board for like 12 additional books, but I have to cut it here at this 10th one, which is Maximum Achievement by Brian Tracy. So this book is, by the time I read this book, I had already been familiar with a lot of the concepts in this. This book, though, the reason why I'm recommending this book and why I like this book so much is, and the reason why Think and Grow Rich is not on here, and some of Tony Robbins stuff is not on here, even though those are really good, is because I feel like this book is a better condensed version of all of that, rolled up into one with some practical application and advice on how to do it. Think and Grow Rich is a great book, but it is difficult. I don't think it's one of my top books, honestly. It's a difficult read. It's not as well laid out. It's kind of mystic. It's a classic. I mean, everyone has to read that book, but but this book, you know, is Maximum Achievement is really what it is it's all those concepts. It's the advice on how to apply those concepts. It's more, it covers productivity. It's just like this huge, like if I had to say, you know, what self-development book or self-help book has the most information that's covering the widest areas, the most practical. I'd say it's the most practical self-development book that I've ever found, because it just covers so much information and puts it all in there. And again, this is a little bit on the woo-woo side, right? Some of the concepts, there's this law of attraction concept that is very much highlighted in there, and some principles that are outlined that you might be a little skeptical of. But, you know, in some of these books that I've recommended, you're going to find that. But I would challenge you to suspend your disbelief a little bit here, because these concepts have totally changed my life. Ridiculous amount of change in my life and the success from believing these concepts, from opening my mind a little bit, not being so skeptical as I was. Doesn't mean that I'm not skeptical, but I've come to understand that there's some things that I don't understand, but they still work. And so, and a lot of this came from just talking to so many successful people, you know, millionaires and entrepreneurs, and asking them about books and concepts. And you're going to find these books on a lot of entrepreneurs and really successful people's book lists, and you're going to find that these concepts apply. So I would recommend that book, Maximum Achievement. All of these books I feel like can be life-changing books. I wish I had room to add more books, but I had to cut it down. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People just barely didn't make it on the list. There's a few others. Some of Tony Robbins stuff didn't make it on the list. Some of it too has to do with where I was at my stage in life, and whether or not I already had that information on how much I value it. So anyway, that's it. That's my list of top 10 books. And if you have some ideas for some that I missed, I'm always looking for good books. Leave me a comment below and say, John, how could you not include this awesome book? And I will definitely check it out. I've probably read it, but let me know. If you want to list your top 10 books, that'd be cool. And let me know what other kind of concepts, top 10s you want. I'm going to probably do top 10 like business books, entrepreneurship. Maybe they'll be combined. Probably do top 10 software development books. I didn't include any of those on here. And maybe health and fitness. Let me know what ones you want. So if you liked this video, definitely subscribe to the channel. And hey, if you think this can benefit someone, and I sure hope that it can, because these books alone, you know, can change your life. One of these books, share it. Share this out. I would really appreciate it. I want to help and reach as many people as possible and share these awesome books. All right, take care, and I'll talk to you next time.